Hey, what's up, Packer fans? So once again, Green Bay making the headlines as a possible suitor for a big name guy in the NFL, right? So who are we talking about? You can see him up on the screen. We're talking about Chris Jones, right? The stud out of Kansas City. So obviously, we all know his situation. He's holding out for a ton of money right now. And it's talking about teams. This article is talking about teams that should be pursuing Chris Jones, and the Green Bay Packers being one of them. So let's get into the article. Like goes over, it says that, hey, you've got teams like Cowboys that should be pursuing them, and they give the reasons why. Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, and mind you, these are teams that have already tried to go after Chris Jones, so they've already been in talks with Kansas City, and then it talks about Green Bay being a possible suitor for him, and that they should get in the race for him. And let's just get into the article. It says this team, meaning the Green Bay Packers, still has the talent to contend if the Jordan Love project succeeds, and there's plenty of experience on defense. The problem is that's not the case up front on defense, where you've got Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell, who play off the line. You might be thinking, you fool, they have Kenny Clark and Devante Wyatt. But I'd deal either of those guys for Jones, who wouldn't prove as large of upgrades as we've looked at in the previous cases, but could save the Packers from having to surrender a primo draft pick in the deal. And it's not like as though Wyatt has shined consistently as a rookie for late first rounder selection. He's often been a ghost. So he's talking about Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, how he would be maybe more of a standout pick there, as opposed to in Green Bay, where they've got young talent. So my personal take is, why the frick would you go out and get a guy like that when you're going to just pay this guy an astronomical amount of money? And believe me, I am all on board of throwing a bunch of money at the right player. Chris Jones is a great player that you would throw a bunch of money at, but it just doesn't make sense in Green Bay because you've got Devante Wyatt, second year out of Georgia. I think the guy's going to be an absolute beast. Is he going to be as good as Chris Jones? Probably not, but he could be a very big impact player, and you're not going to spend as much money on Devante Wyatt. And then you also got Colby Wooden, right? So you've got Wooden that is still, I think that there's a lot of upside from this dude out of Auburn that they drafted. So again, I am all on board for throwing a bunch of money at a guy that's going to make an impact. I mean, I was all about it when the Packers went out and got Reggie White. Reggie White, they threw, I think, 17 million a 4 year. Can you imagine that deal in today's NFL? But they did it in '93 for Reggie White, and you already saw what Reggie White was able to do for the Packers. When you get a guy like Reggie White on the line, everybody wants to come and play with that, and it is contagious. I don't think the Packers go and do that. I don't think they need to do that. I personally would rather them go and get Jonathan Taylor. Why? It's not like Aaron Jones is worse by any means, but Aaron Jones is a stud. And he's already done so much for Green Bay, but he's getting older, right? And so you've got a guy like Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin alum, kind of coming back home type deal. I think a guy like Jonathan Taylor makes a lot more sense because AJ Dillon's coming up on his contract year, so you're gonna have to throw a bunch of money at AJ Dillon. And he's not your just the workhorse running back that a Jonathan Taylor would be. So my personal take is, I think the Green Bay Packers, I would hate to play against Chris Jones this season if he does land in the NFC North, but I don't think the Packers go and get Chris Jones. Just doesn't make sense for Green Bay. It really doesn't. They've got too much beef up front. Finally, we're saying that, right? So I think there's a lot of guys on the D line that can fit that space to be able to, without breaking the bank. Just because you've got the money doesn't mean you need to spend the money. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Subscribe. Love to know your comments. Should the Packers go out and get Chris Jones? Should they get in that race and that fight for him? This article seems to think so. I disagree. Let me know your thoughts.